Now, we took a look at this monster, the 18-inch M18 R2 from Alienware, and really big powerhouse. For a desktop replacement, certainly does the job here. Now, I have its smaller sibling as well. Now, this is the M16 R2, and this is a redesign, a radical redesign over its predecessor. Remember, you used to have that ledge there. You don't get that here. They did away with some features that I'm not happy about. You don't get a mechanical keyboard option anymore, and you don't get the higher-end GPU options like the 4080 and the 4090. Here you get a 4070, and I think overall the package is better here this time around. Now, you do get a QHD plus resolution. It's 2560 by 1600, 16 to 10 aspect ratio. It's a nice display overall. It's got the 240 hertz refresh rate. Actually, it's got a higher refresh rate than its bigger sibling here, the M18. So that has 165 hertz. This is 240 hertz variable refresh rate. It's got a nice keyboard, 1.8 millimeters of key travel. Again, no mechanical keyboard, but overall as a keyboard, this is really good. Touchpad has a new ring of light around it, around the perimeter. That's something different, and it's slightly larger in terms of the touchpad. It has something called a stealth mode. So if you're using this in an office environment, it'll be a little bit more understated. Again, it does have the gamery vibe, but that's the Alienware MO. But overall, this is a pretty big design change, I think, over the M16 R1 from last year. But the question is it worth the upgrade here as we round out 2024? Heading into 2025, we'll probably get refreshes. We're going to probably see something at CES, I anticipate. But you might get this on sale, so I'll leave links for everything in the description below. You also might get the R1 on sale if you're looking to get a big discount. We'll talk more about that in this review. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the Alienware M16 R2 as we round out 2024. Coming up. And in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, I'm not being paid by Dell. I'm not being sponsored by Dell. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Dell is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time. Just like you, this unit is on loan from Dell, and once this review is done, I'll be sending it back. Now, pricing for the M16 R2 comes in at $1899.99. You go pick it up over at Dell's website, or you can go over to Best Buy. And by the way, if you want to pick up last year's model, the R1, that's on sale for $1599. Links for everything will be in the description below. And the reason I'm showing you the R1 is because this really is not a huge upgrade over the R1. So if you can find that on a good price, which I think this is a really good deal. Again, links for everything will be in the description below. Now, this is a departure from the R1 in terms of design. The most notable change involves the removal of the protruding thermal deck along the rear for a much smaller footprint than before. I actually like this design. I think it's a lot smaller. It's easy to carry around. It doesn't have that protruding deck, but some people may disagree. I don't know. The RGB LED ring light on the back is now gone, and the keyboard has been pushed upward to make room for both larger palm rests and a larger touchpad. This significant chassis change has resulted in significant cuts to both weight and dimension. The M16 R2 is approximately 17% lighter and 22% smaller than the M16 R1, so it's more portable. And as far as that weight is concerned, you're looking at 2.466 kilograms or 5.44 pounds. Now, the power supply comes in at 673 grams or 1.48 pounds. Okay, let's check out the port selection. On the left side is a 2.5 gigabits per second RJ45 Ethernet port and a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. Moving over to the right side is a micro SD card reader, and you get two USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 ports. And on the back, you get two USB Type-C ports, one Thunderbolt 4 port, by the way, and the other one is USB-C 3.2 Gen 2, an HDMI 2.1, and your power port to round out the ports on this unit. I would say, all in all, a pretty good port selection here. Now, when it comes to the internals here, you'll notice there are two fans for cooling. We'll get into the thermal performance later on. You'll also notice a 90 watt-hour battery. We'll get into that later on as well. Now, as far as the SSD, the included 1 terabyte SSD has some excellent reads and writes, and there is a second M.2 2280 SSD slot for storage expansion. That is always welcome. And the RAM is upgradable, as there are two SODIMM slots here. I actually have 16 gigabytes in my unit, but you can get it with more, or you can swap it out yourself, which is always welcome. Not common here in 2024, so it's nice to see that still here on this Alienware line. And when it comes to wireless, you're looking at killer Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.3 combo card, and the good news is it's slotted in, so if you need to change it out for whatever reason, you can. And as far as the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth, I've had no issue with either one, working perfectly. Okay, let's talk about the display. And what we're looking at here is a 16-inch IPS display, 2560 by 1600. That means it has a 16:10 aspect ratio. You're looking at 240 hertz refresh rate for that smooth gaming experience. You're going to get it here. Now, as far as the screen brightness, I measured 309 nits. I'd like to see it closer or over 400 nits. We don't get that here, although 309 nits is not too bad considering it's a matte finish on it, so it's not a very glare kind of display. You don't get a lot of glossiness. So overall, not too bad, but I'd like to see that brightness a little bit higher. It's got pretty good coverage of the color gamut here. It also is color accurate. So if you're going to do content creation on this besides gaming, you can definitely do it. It has really good contrast, an excellent black level, good white point, and overall a very good display. You don't get any PWM or screen flickering as you'd get with an OLED option. And speaking of OLED, there is no OLED option here. So for those wondering, you don't get that. But 240 hertz gives you very smooth, very fluid experience, especially when it comes to gaming. So that's something you definitely want to see on a gaming laptop first and foremost. And watching Netflix, Amazon, YouTube has been very good, although I didn't see an option for HDR on this display. You'd have to connect to an external display to get those features. And I would say overall, a very good viewing experience with this display. 16 inches, nice screen real estate. I like the fact that it is 16:10, so you'll get more work done. When you're not gaming, want to be more productive, you can definitely do it in an office. You'll see more on the display. You'll do less scrolling when it comes to web browsing. All right, this is the camera on the Alienware M16 R2 for 2024. Of course, this is 1080p IR, meaning you can log in with face recognition, Windows Hello. This is an AI PC because it does have all the studio effects. It has an NPU, which handles those things, background blur, auto framing. We've seen it a million times. What do you think about the video quality, and what do you think about the audio quality? Let me know in the comments section below. Now, there are some pretty big changes here to the keyboard. You no longer get a mechanical option like you did with the R1. That's one thing. But of course, this uses a chiclet-style keys. They're membrane-type keys with 1.8 millimeters of key travel. So that's going to keep the weight low in terms of not going with mechanical. So that's one of the reasons they did away with that. Now, on the M18, there is Cherry MX switches that I talk about in that review. I'll leave a link to that review in the description below. But typing out documents, emails, and the like has been very good. Again, 1.8 millimeters of key travel is really great here, and I felt it very comfortable for typing out long documents, emails, and the like. Now, new to the keyboard this year is a handy stealth mode feature tied to the F2 key, which toggles the system to quiet mode without needing to first launch Alienware Command. I like that. And otherwise, the keyboard layout remains pretty much the same as it was on the original M16 R1. And again, no mechanical option for those wondering. Now, the touchpad is slightly larger than last year's model and includes a new RGB lighting around the perimeter. Looks fine. I have no problem or issue with it. And as far as the aesthetics, it looks okay. Now, as far as the overall use of the touchpad, it's okay. It's good. It has, two-finger scrolling worked well, and all the gestures work as you'd expect. So overall, pretty good. It's not a haptic touchpad or anything like that. Would have been nice, but it gets the job done. Put it that way. Now, let's talk about performance, and the processor here is the Core Ultra 7 155H. So they're going with Meteor Lake, and that's about 10 to 15% less than last year's model in terms of single and multi-core performance. So keep that in mind. Not a big deal in terms of real-world usage. Doing everyday tasks, Microsoft Office, email, web browsing, all were working very fine. But again, you'll have less performance than last year's model, and it's showing by the numbers. But of course, there is some graphics here. It's the RTX 4070, and it has 140 watt TDP, and as you can see, the Time Spy, the Firestrike, Wildlife Extreme, all very good. You can play AAA titles. You just have to play with some of the settings, but you get some very, very playable frame rates overall. So the gaming performance on this is very good. And when I ran the Time Spy stress test to see if this will thermal throttle, it got a passing score of 98.9%, meaning it detected virtually no thermal throttling under load. Now, as far as the surface temperatures, the cooling system here employed has been very good, keeping the surface temperatures at bay, never getting overly hot where you place your fingers on the keyboard, not hot on the underside. Maybe a few warm spots here and there, but nothing overly hot. So they do a good job in terms of the cooling here. And in order to keep this system cool, you will notice the fans ramp up, especially in performance mode when you're doing gaming, 4K video editing, reaching as high as 55, 56 decibels, which is noticeable. But when you're doing everyday tasks in balance mode, there really was not an issue in terms of fan noise. But again, when you're going to ramp things up, you will notice those fans kick in. Now, battery capacity is actually slightly bigger this year at 90 watt hours, despite having a smaller chassis design. That's pretty good. Now, in real world mixed usage, I'm getting around 8 hours. Now, in gaming, pushing it under maximum load, you're looking at no more than about an hour. Again, keep in mind that everybody's use case is a little bit different, so your mileage may vary, but about 8 hours of mixed real world usage is what you can expect. Now, they do supply you with a 240 watt power charger, and it takes about 90 minutes to give you a full charge. So not too bad. And about charging to 85% will take just under 40 minutes for those wondering. So overall, not bad when it comes to charging. And for those wondering, this model can also be charged via a USB Type-C charger, although much slower, of course, so keep that in mind. All right, now to get a sound test, I have the Alienware M18 R2 here. I have the M16 R2. Different sound. I actually think this sounds better, the smaller one, which is kind of surprising. But let you be the judge. You let me know what you think in the comment section below. Now, let's give them a listen. Okay, let's wrap it all up. The Alienware M16 R2 here for 2024 as we head into 2025 is a good option here for those that are looking for a 16-inch gaming laptop. It's more portable and lighter than before, than the R1. It has a comfortable keyboard with a pretty large touchpad. It's actually a larger touchpad than last year. 16-inch QHD Plus IPS display. You got 240 hertz in terms of the refresh rate. G-Sync support that comes standard here. It's got an all-metal rigid chassis, so very durable, and all-metal design is pretty nice here, and they toned it down a little bit. No longer do you get that ledge with the RGB lighting, although you do get the lighting around the touchpad for those that are interested, and it does have the stealth mode for those that need to be in a more business environment. Now, the mechanical keyboard and the RTX 4080 and 4090 options have been dropped, so just keep that in mind. It can run hot at times under load, but for the most part stayed at bay and had very good surface temperatures even under load. It does have less performance over last year's model that ran the Core i7 13700HX, so just keep that in mind. But overall, the performance is very good. So if you're in the market for a 16-inch gaming laptop but don't want to break the bank and can find this on sale, and this is the key, if it's on sale, I could recommend this at the $1899 or whatever it is at full price. I don't want to recommend it just yet. I know we have new models coming, or potentially new models coming here for 2025. Look for CES to hear some announcements potentially. But I think if you could find this on sale and you want that reduced size that you get over the R1 and the redesign in terms of the keyboard and all that stuff. So I think overall this is a pretty good deal, especially at a reduced price. So I can recommend it here as we round out 2024.